Welcome back to another episode of Gaijin Reviews. As always, I'm the Gaijin, and today we're going to be taking a look at High and Low, directed by Akira Kurosawa. Play the intro. Now you might be saying to yourself, wait a minute, this isn't Nathan's Kitchen. Nathan's Kitchen is nicer. What's up? I moved. I'm attending school, so I had to move into a closer place to school and a cheaper place. So here I am. So, like I said, today we're looking at High and Low, which in Japanese is Tengoku to Jikoku, which translates to Heaven and Hell. Which, and both titles actually work quite well. Thematically, that's it. To the plot of the film. Oh, I had the fork in my pocket. I have 2 forks to stir my hot water because it's not ramen in here. High and Low is a film about Kingo Gondo, who, while trying to stage a takeover of the shoe company that he works at, National Shoes, by acquiring 47% controlling share of the company, gets a phone call, and a man tells him that his son has been kidnapped and he has to pay 30 million yen or he'll kill his son. The thing that I really like about High and Low is that it feels really complicated and really intricate, like there's a lot of twists. But really, when you get down to it, it's a pretty simple story. And it handles it all really well. The beginning of the film, the first 45 minutes to an hour, really feel like a play. It takes place almost entirely inside of Gondo's house, which is on top of this hill, overlooking the neighborhood below, which is obviously not as nice as Gondo's house. And the way that the scenes are set and staged, it's the kind of staging you don't see anymore. Nowadays, when you want to film a dialogue scene, so many movies are just shot reverse shot, and that's fine, I guess. It gets your point across, but you can do so much more interesting things when you try, and that's all Akira Kurosawa does. He just tries and tries and tries, and there's a lot of moments in this film where the staging emphasizes what's going on. There's a scene early in the film where Gondo is having a bit of a moral crisis so what ends up happening is a man says he kidnaps his son, but he hasn't. He's kidnapped his chauffeur's son, mistaking it for his. His son is named Jun, chauffeur's son is named Shinichi. So he's like, oh yeah, I know I got the wrong kid, but I'm still going to make you pay the ransom. He's like, what? Bullshit. So Shinichi's dad is like, hey man, please save my son. And Gondo's like, no, if I save your son, it'll bankrupt me, because I've borrowed so much money. To take over this company. If I don't take over this company, I'm fucked. And the guy's like, oh, please. And so he's standing there, and it's him in the center. Characters inside. You can see the dad in the back there, and his wife down here, and the cops here. And just the way they're all standing, it really narrows your focus into each member of the situation, and really enhances Gondo's emotional response. I hate talking sometimes. I don't know why I do this. Oh. I don't write scripts. I probably should, but I don't. I like to just talk. I like to, have this feel natural, like a conversation. I'm just gonna tell you, let's dial it back. I've been trying to work out a format. I hate it. I'm just gonna not have a format. Why should you watch High and Low? Why? Because it's a fucking dope movie, alright? So, basically, High and Low is like a really good Hitchcock film, but without, just through the eyes of a Kurosawa. I've also heard it compared to a Shakespearean play, and, kind of, yeah, a little bit. It's got that sort of feel, minus, the flowery language. I mean, the language is still hard to understand if you're a modern American man. It's because it's Japanese. I did a bit there. But it's just super well directed. There's so much cinematography happening. And not fucking big sweeps, sick dolly shots, the Hitchcock scenes. It's all really basic shit, but executed to a level that makes you feel feel impressed. And movies, when you style it up. And listen, I'm not saying don't make your film stylish. I love me some Edgar Wright, but sometimes I just want to see something subdued, I just want to see something pared down, chilled out, relaxed, but just really effectively done. There's no shots in this film that I'm wasted shot. No, everything has a purpose, everything serves a function, everything helps build the tone in a scene. So, as people who have watched my other reviews know, my dick gets fucking rock when there's setup. I love setup. I love when things are established. I also don't dislike things coming out of left field all of a sudden, but I really like if things come out of left field, but the movie told me it was coming and still managed to surprise me. So, in the beginning of this film, like I said, the plot is that this guy kidnaps the wrong kid and then holds this man hostage. Well, he's holding the kid hostage, but he holds this man at ransom. I'm fixing my hair. I do this a lot. I like touch it myself, I realize. As I said, wrong kid gets kidnapped, right? So, in the beginning of the film, there's a number of things that are set up that play into later in the film. One, later on we learn that the villain, the kidnapper, I don't know if we ever get his name, I can't remember. I could look. I'm not going to, though. I'm gonna admit that I don't remember his name. It's not even really that important, he's barely on screen. So basically, the kidnapper, he can see into Gondo's window, because he's on this hill. And you can see the whole neighborhood down below. Early on in the film, the opening scene, basically, when Gondo's talking to a bunch of shoe execs about how their shoes are shit and his shoes are hot shit, he goes over to his giant window patio and opens the door and steps out into his balcony. So you see him, and then you see the whole neighborhood below him, and you can see the whole fucking neighborhood. And so when the killer's I gotta stop saying killer. I mean, he is, but the kidnapper, I'm so used to oh my god, it was humid this morning. When you wake up in the morning and it's humid and you get the goo? And so when the kidnapper is yo, I could see up inside your house, it's well, yeah, of course. Look at all the places he has to look from. Another great moment of setup is towards when the kids get kidnapped, is that they're playing not Cowboys and Indians, Cowboys and Outlaws. I don't even know if Japanese people know what American natives are. No, they do, because they were in Cowboy Bebop. They know. So Shinichi and Jun, which are the two kids, they're playing cops and robbers around the house, and the mother Gondo's what? Mrs. Gondo. She goes to, she's like Jun, and then it turns around and it's Shinichi, and she's like, oh, you guys swapped costumes. It's your turn to be the sheriff. And he's like, Yapparuni. And then they run off, and then they get the call, hey, I've kidnapped your son. And then the film just spends like 45 minutes like having Gondo just be in this moral crisis of like, do I ruin my well-being or do I save this child? And when you start watching this film, you think, is this going to be the whole like drive? Is this going to be what the whole film's about? You know, what's more valuable, your riches or a life of a living person? And it's not all about that. That's something I actually really dig about this film. So, like I said, the beginning of the film feels like a play because it's just in this one house, great staging. You could film this entire opening from like one spot in the house if you wanted to. Luckily we don't. We get around the place. We never go up to the second floor. We get like a kind of a shot of the second floor, but we never get like up there proper. And they're just in this room like trying to think about like the cops show up and they're like, we're gonna help you rescue the kid, you fuck. And they start trying to formulate plans to like save this kid, and I love shit like this. It's just a bunch of dudes sitting in a room being like, fuck, what do we do? Also, another thing I like about this, it's the past. This film was made in 1963. So, by that notion, they don't got a lot of shit we got. So, like, they don't got computers, you know? So, like, when they're trying to gather together the money to give to the kidnapper, they have to write down every serial number by hand.
分間に10枚かけます。5000枚ですから500分。8時間20分。休みよりとも10時間あればかけるでしょう。そんなことしても無駄じゃないかな。
And they like have these bags, and the cops like looking at the bag, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna put like a tracker in it. But then I'm like, wait, do they have a tracker? No, they don't. They have two methods of finding the bag.
土に埋めるか、水の中に沈めるか、焼き捨てるか。このカプセルの中の粉末は水分を吸収すると猛烈な悪臭を放ちます。またこのポリエチレンの中の粉末は燃やすと異様なボタン色の煙が出ます。
So they're like, these bags are really unique. We went and looked and we tried to find an uncommon pattern for our bag, and we did. And he'll probably be aware of this. So when he's done with the bag, he'll do three things with it. Put it in the water, and this capsule will make a horrifying smell. He'll burn it, this capsule will make pink smoke. Or he'll bury it. If he buries it, I guess we're fucked. But then, so the whole film begins in this place. We get to know each one of the characters fairly well. Everyone kind of gets like the main like 3 to 4 cops. Like they get a little bit of character establishment. Gondo, of course, gets a lot of character development. You really learn what he's like. You know, he wasn't a rich man in the beginning. He was an apprentice at a shoe factory. He made shoes, and then he just worked until he was like good. And someone says even later in the film that part of the reason why he's rich is because his wife is rich. And when they got married, he got money from her family. And she's like, just give the money to the killer. I don't care about being poor. And he's like, no, you don't understand. You've been rich your whole life. You don't know what it's like to be poor.
お前今一文なしとはどういうことだかわからんのだ。生まれた時から大きな立派な家や自動車、贅沢な着物や食べ物、至れり尽くせりの塩に、そういったものに取り巻かれて生きてきた。
Sucks. And those moments are really interesting. Cause like he's like, listen, I realize what I'm doing. I realize that like it looks super heartless that I'm like trying to protect my livelihood, but like, shouldn't I be entitled to not want to like horribly bankrupt myself? And his wife is like, you'll give the money, I know you will, because you're not a shitbag. And he's like, ah. So then the cops are like, well, tell the killer you're going to give him the money, because then he might do something stupid and fuck up and catch him. And then Gondo's like, I'll give him the money. Calls up the bank and he gets the bills. And then it's at this point, it's where they're going to go give the kidnapper the money, that the film just is suddenly not in Gondo's apartment. They're just on a train. Because that's what the drop is. And then from this point on, the film takes place just all over the fucking place. We get, like, downtown Tokyo. We get, like, gross drug fiend alleys. You know, we get the train, we get the police station, we go back to Gondo's house a couple times. Like, there's just a bunch of places that we go. And watching them slowly, like, grab bits to figure out who the kidnapper is great. So one of the characters, Shinichi's dad, drives Shinichi around and, like, goes like, oh, do you remember this neighborhood? Do you remember where we are? And he's like, yeah. And he leads them to, like, some accomplices of the kidnapper. My favorite part of the film is... So they figure out that the accomplices that the kidnapper had, he's killed. And they know that he doesn't know that they're dead. So they basically tell the newspapers, they're like, hey, could you guys say that one of the 1,000 yen notes was used? And that we, like, know what the case looks like? And then they forge a note that basically says, like, hey, you bring us more money and drugs. So then the killer's like, oh, those drug addicts are spending the money. Fuck. So he goes out and basically what they know, and then they give him the note that says, like, hey, bring us more drugs and money.
What?
Basically what his plan is how he killed them originally, is he gave them heroin that was like 3 times as pure as the heroin that they usually get. So when they took as much as they usually take, they OD'd and died. So that's going to be his plan a second time, but this time he's going to, like, test it out. So the scene is, they're trying to follow him, because the thing is, they don't have hard evidence that he killed his accomplices. They only have that he's doing extortion. Because he's threatening Gondo with not his kid, it's extortion. That's sure. And they need proof that he killed his accomplices so they can kill his ass. Because they're like, fuck this guy. This guy needs to get it. So the thing is, he's like a apprentice doctor, and he hates Gondo because he lives, like, in the poor side of town where it's hot and cold. Sometimes it's so hot I can't sleep. Sometimes it's so cold I can't sleep. It's hard out here. Neglecting to realize the fact that, like, Gondo was poor too at one point, so he probably knows. Also, this guy's an apprentice doctor, which means he's going to be a doctor at some point, which means he just had to wait a bit, and his problem would be solved. Again, it's like a thematic thing, but, like, didn't need to do this. He could have just waited a few years. It would have been fine. He might have even ended up being richer than Gondo. So, but no, he's like, fuck this guy who lives on this island. Look at his house every day. It's probably warm and cool up there. Fucker. So, So they lay a trap for him. They make him think that the drug addicts are still alive, his accomplices, and they follow him from like downtown Tokyo in this like hip and happening jazz bar out to like the seediest fucking place. There's just heroin addicts all over the place, and they're trying to catch him. But the thing that makes the scene interesting, because like in a modern movie it would just be like, we got him on this camera, we got the drones, you know. But here it's people on the street. And they have to talk through radios, and they don't have radios on them when they're walking around. So they have to like follow the guy and then walk back to the radio and be like, "Guys, see him," because they can't just like talk like into like a secret. They have to use a big fucking walkie to talk to each other. So there's like moments where they're like, "Where is he? Who sees him?" And they're just sitting there by the radio being like, "Ah!" It's the kind of tension you don't see in scenes like this anymore, because this is gonna sound weird, because all things in movies are fabricated. But the tension in modern, like these kind of modern scenes, it feels a little fabricated. It feels like the movie's like, it's tense because movies tell you that these scenes are tense, but you just don't get tension like this, you know? Like, when you have drones and security cameras and that, and oh my god, it's Jason Bourne, you know, I don't care. But when it's a bunch of dudes in the street having to, like, look around corners and be like, you going to that building? Shit, did you get the drugs already? Fuck, what's he doing with that lady? And then they get him! That moment's pretty great. I like the actor that plays the kidnapper. He looks fucking tired. He looks really worn out. He's like, man, I almost got away with all this kidnapping. I got a ridiculous amount of money. Oh, you actually got me. There's one really cool moment of colorization in this film. So, for those who want to know, I watched the Criterion Collection release of this film. I don't know if this detail is in the original. I would imagine it would be. I'm pretty sure Criterion doesn't add shit. So like I said earlier, they hide a thing in one of the suitcases, the pink capsule. And when they release the newspapers what the bag looks like, the kidnapper obviously wants to get rid of it, so he does burn it. And it burns with a pink smoke. And the smoke in the film it's pink. And I was like, that's cool. It's the only color in the film. And I was like, neat-o. That's pretty fucking cool. Because, listen, I'm a sucker for some things. And black and white with some things colored, ooh. That just makes me want to drop my drawers and get it on with the film. Get the reels and wrap it around, and you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about! I have a film reel for 3,000 Miles to Graceland with Kurt Russell and shit. Wrap that around my dick. It's a pretty okay film. This movie feels like two movies. Start off with your character drama in Gondo's house being like, who's the killer? Where's the killer? We gotta get the stuff. And then it turns into like a really cool retro police procedural. And it does feel like two movies, because in the beginning, Gondo's like the main character. He's got all the focus. In the second half of the film, it's like the police inspector. You know, he becomes the main character now. And I actually really dig that shift of focus. Because it keeps you engaged, you know? You're sitting there through this longish movie, and you're like, alright, I get it. Yeah, we're in the house. Character, moral, drama. I understand. And right when you're like, maybe gonna get tired of the first kind of movie you're watching, it's like, hey, guess what? You're watching a new movie, baby! Woo! Woo! And I think that's a really clever thing to do. So, that was high and low. I decided to review that film as my first Kurosawa because I feel like when people think of Kurosawa, they think of his samurai films. You know, they think of Rashomon, Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, Sanjuro, Kagemusha, Throne of Blood. They think of all that stuff. But, you know, he made contemporary films set in the modern day. So I wanted to highlight one of those. I feel like they don't get enough attention. Because I feel like people, probably Westerners more than not, you know, I feel like they think that he is the samurai man. But he's a diverse director. And I will, you know, obviously I will review his samurai films later. But next week, I think I'm going to take a look at a very different kind of samurai movie. Anyways, thank you for joining me this week. This has been a Gaijin Reviews. Check out my Patreon. You can give me money so I can keep doing this. More than not.